The 427 Camry was banned before it even raced because it pushed the limits too far, and when innovation moved faster than regulation, NASCAR chose control over risk. In 1964, the pressure peaked at the Daytona 500 when Chrysler introduced the 426 Hemi and immediately shifted the balance of power. Richard Petty's victory made the message unmistakable, and the rest of the field could see that Ford had a serious problem. The Hemi was winning races, and those wins were turning into sales. NASCAR had become a corporate battlefield where trophies influenced showroom traffic, and every loss affected brand reputation as much as championship points. Inside Ford, the response was urgent. Engineers saw the performance gap, executives saw the risk to market position, and Henry Ford II understood that falling behind Chrysler meant losing authority in the performance world. This was no longer about pride on the track, but about protecting Ford's standing in an industry where racing success shaped public trust. Ford answered with urgency, and the order was simple: build something that could answer the Hemi within 90 days. The team chose the 427 FE side oiler block as the base because it already proved reliable in racing, and its strong bottom end could handle some serious power. The real change came at the top. Instead of staying with a pushrod layout, Ford moved to a single overhead cam design, and that decision transformed the engine's character. An overhead cam gave better valve control at high RPM, and it allowed the engine to breathe more efficiently at speeds where pushrod setups began to struggle. The new heads used hemispherical combustion chambers, and the camshafts worked through shaft-mounted roller rocker arms to reduce friction and improve stability. Early versions placed the spark plugs on the lower side of the heads, yet testing showed no loss in peak power when they were moved to the top, so Ford relocated them for easier access. This was not a small upgrade to the existing 427. It was a clear escalation focused on higher RPM capability, stronger airflow, and durability under sustained racing conditions. When the testing numbers came in, they were shocking. In single 4-barrel form, the 427 Camry produced 616 horsepower at 7,000 RPM and 515 pound-feet of torque, and with dual 4-barrel carburetors, the output climbed to 657 horsepower at 7,500 RPM. Now, in 1964, those figures were not ordinary racing numbers. Most stock-based engines struggled to stay stable at those engine speeds, yet the Camry was built to live there, and its power continued to rise as the RPM climbed. The higher red line alone signaled a shift in approach because sustained high-speed operation was becoming the new standard for superspeedways. These numbers put Ford back in the fight, but the Camry wasn't just matching the Hemi. It was built to push further using high RPM and airflow to its advantage. Adding an overhead cam system to the FE block required a creative solution, and that solution was a serpentine timing chain nearly 6 to 7 feet long. The chain ran from the crankshaft up to both camshafts, which allowed Ford to keep the proven bottom end while converting the engine to overhead cam operation. At high RPM, that length created challenges. As speeds climbed past 7,000 RPM, change, stretch, and deflection could cause slight timing differences between the two cams, and precision became harder to maintain under sustained load. Racers found ways to keep the engine in line, sometimes tweaking up to 8 degrees of timing between the banks, and later adding gear drive systems to make it more reliable at high speeds. The long chain reflected the urgency of the project, and it showed how far Ford was willing to push the existing platform to reach a new level of performance. Before the 427 Camry ever saw a race, NASCAR stepped in. Bill France banned overhead cam engines, and the decision came just as Ford prepared to debut the engine on the track. The Camry never ran a full NASCAR season, and it never got the chance to prove its speed in competition. A move meant to hold back a threat before it could prove just how fast it really was. When the rules change before the car even hits the track, it sends a simple message. Fear came first, and the camera's legacy was set without ever racing a lap. With NASCAR off limits, Ford turned the 427 Camry toward drag racing where the engine could run without restrictions. Legends like Connie Kalitta, Don Prudhomme, Sneaky Pete Robinson, Dino Don Nicholson, and Mickey Thompson took notice, and they quickly became the engine's champions. Early tests showed that the block struggled under the strain of drag racing, exposing some vulnerabilities in the bottom end. Racers modified the FE block to use 426 Hemi bearings, which strengthened it sufficiently to withstand the high power. Harvey Crane introduced a gear drive system that improved cam timing, and by running two right-hand cams turning in the same direction, racers could grind the camshafts more efficiently and extract more performance. What NASCAR refused to allow on the track, drag racers refined in the pits. The Camry grew into a machine shaped by creativity and grit, showing its true potential wherever it had room to run. As drag racing evolved, the 427 Camry pushed into a new era of power. In funny car and top fuel competition, engines began exceeding 1,500 horsepower, and the Camry's potential was fully exposed. The FE block, never designed for that level of stress, reached its limits, and failures became more common as racers pushed harder. Unlike mass-produced engines, the Camry had almost no aftermarket support because so few were ever built for the street or track. Without wider production, parts were scarce, and maintaining the engine at peak performance required constant innovation and adaptation. The Camry could unleash jaw-dropping power in short bursts, yet with so few built and little factory support, keeping it running over time was a constant struggle. Even the smartest engineering needed a team and parts to survive beyond the track. The 427 Camry's final moments of dominance came in 1971 at the NHRA Summer Nationals, with drivers like Hubert Platt pushing pro stock cars to 690 horsepower on the dyno, reaching 135 to 140 miles per hour and running high 9-second quarters. Those performances marked the engine's last chapter in official competition, yet its influence extended far beyond the track. The Camry challenged tradition, moving from pushrod designs to overhead cam architecture, and NASCAR's ban targeted the layout, not the power. In doing so, it previewed the future of engine design and shaped later Ford overhead cam programs, including the modern Coyote V8. Built under urgency, banned out of fear, and remembered in reverence, the 427 Camry changed the rules before racing could catch up.